Today is the second Sunday in Ordinary Time, but it's really the first Sunday. Well, this is the beginning of the second week in Ordinary Time, but it's really the first Sunday after Christmas, right? If you tuned in last week, you know it was Epiphany, right, one Sunday, and then because of the way the calendar fell, Monday was the baptism of the Lord. And then we had the first week of Ordinary Time, and here we are now in the second Sunday in Ordinary Time. But it's really, and it always is. No matter how the calendar falls, there is no first Sunday in Ordinary Time. Okay? So I don't know why they call it the second Sunday in Ordinary Time. That was a decision made above my pay grade, so. But no matter what, so you know the cycle of readings on Sundays, right? And there's a 3-year cycle. So the first year is Matthew, the second year is Mark, the third year Luke, and it goes around and around. So if you come every Sunday for 3 years, you basically hear all of the Gospels. This is the second year in the cycle, so we should have heard, you would think you'd hear from Mark today, but that is not the case on this first Sunday of Ordinary Time. Regardless of what year it is, that the reading is always from John, right? The great theologian, right? And those gospel readings they all serve the same purpose. They expand on Epiphany. What is Epiphany, right? When the Roman Church thinks of Epiphany, we think of the wise men and the magi, right? And the camel and all that business, right? And myrrh, all that business. King. But that's only one small aspect of Epiphany. Then, in fact, in the tradition, there were 3 great stories that spoke about Epiphany, right? The Magi, the baptism of the Lord, and the wedding feast at Cana. Okay? Those are the 3 main stories that speak of Epiphany or theophany, this manifestation of who this Jesus is. Who is this child who now is an adult? Right? Who is he? What is he? Right? And that's all part of this bigger notion of Epiphany or theophany. Right? So today we kind of continue with that. Right? Because we have this rather lovely transition in the story from John today between John the Baptist and the beginning of Jesus' public ministry. Right? And in fact, again, no matter what Sunday it is, this first Sunday in Ordinary Time is always a story like that. So if you come next year, it's going to be the wedding feast at Cana. The story has a whole bunch of facts in it that kind of help us to see how do you get from John the Baptist to Jesus, right? So this happens, this happens, this happens, this happens. And we can reduce it to just that. It's just a bunch of stuff that gets us into the story of Jesus. And we can say, well, that's nice. Christmas is over. The wise men can go back in the closet with the camel, right? And we can get on with our lives for another year almost. But there's a lot going on here. There's a lot going on here. So let's just go through this story very carefully, because it's so easy to we tend to read the scriptures as a storybook, and it is, right? Around to the meaning, we're missing the revelation part, right? Knowing about Jesus of Nazareth is a nice thing, right? Even a well-cultured, well-educated atheist can tell you facts about the life of Jesus of Nazareth. Very nice. That's not the point of these stories. It's not the point of the scriptures. Right? They're meant to speak to us about our experience as well. Right? And we see this very potently in this very short 7-verse text today. So let's point out let's look at that. John was standing. John was standing with two of his disciples, Andrew and some other guy, which we can assume is the beloved disciple, John himself. We don't know that, but usually that's kind of how it works, right? John was standing. John has completed his mission. He is the last Old Testament prophet. He has done everything that he was called to do. Right? He was born first in a miraculous, strange way. Right? He even reacts when the infant Jesus, who is still in his mother's womb, shows up to help Elizabeth. John realizes who it is and has a little dance in his mother's womb. And then he grows up, and then he goes out into the wilderness and eats bugs and baptizes people for the remission of their sins. And then he points out, but there's Jesus. I am not worthy to untie the strap. He's done all that. And now he's standing. He's not moving. He's done. Now, there's another part of the John story, and we all know, and if you've seen the opera Salome, you know how it ends. Or if you read the book ahead of us here, John is standing. He's done. But what does he do? He's pointing. Behold the Lamb of God. What is Jesus doing? He's walking by. John is stopped. Jesus is moving. The action is now moving from John in the Old Testament to Jesus and the New Covenant. Behold the Lamb of God. In the Eastern churches, in their hymnography for Epiphany, there's a beautiful image in the hymns where it says, and as behold the Lamb of God, and as he's doing that, his hand trembles. His hand trembles. Why? Awe, wonder. He knows who his cousin is. Behold the Lamb of God. And he knows that his work is done. He's standing. He's stopped. But Jesus is on the move. He doesn't even stop when he hears this. He keeps walking on past. But these two disciples hear that, and they say, "Peace out, John. We're following him." And off they go. But they don't know what does that mean? Behold the Lamb of God. What does that mean? Who knows? But they start walking after him, from standing still to moving. They're on a journey now. This is very important. Okay? They've really begun their spiritual journey. And the spiritual journey means moving. Moving where? Towards Jesus. Wondering who this guy is. Now, this is something very important to say here, given our current world and current church. Where are they moving towards? Jesus, the Christ, God, not the world. They're not moving towards the world. They're moving away from the values of the world towards the Christ, the truth. That's all right. So then what happened? Jesus looks around and followed them. They're probably kind of dodging it, right? What are you looking for? Maybe he's afraid they're going to rob him or something. Rabbi, they say, Andrew says, or they say. And then John tells us what that word means. That's kind of interesting. In fact, he does this 3 times in this text. Rabbi, which means teacher, right? They're moving away from John towards this guy who they see as a teacher. He must be a teacher, a great teacher. Indeed, he is. In fact, this was very common in the Jewish world of the first century. And it's still true in a certain sense in Judaism today, right? If you're a pious Jew, you shop around for a teacher. You choose the teacher. You choose the teacher. Let's go see what this guy's got. If we don't, we're out of here. We'll go look for somebody else. And Jesus said to them, come and you'll see. Walk with me. Walk with me. You will see in that experience. So they went, and they saw where Jesus was staying, and they stayed with him that day, and it got to be 4 p.m. What happened? We don't know. Nobody tells us what happened while they've gone with Jesus. But Andrew, after this experience, goes and looks for his brother Simon. Now remember, Andrew and Simon are in the fishing business, right? Remember that? And they go so Andrew looks up his brother Simon, and he tells a lie. He tells a lie. We have found the Messiah, which is translated Christ, the Anointed One. We have found the Messiah. Really? Did they find him, or did he find them? That makes a big difference. And indeed, it is the latter. Jesus found them. And whatever that experience was, in those hours they were together, they come to see that Jesus is not just a teacher, which he is, which again, many people in the world today will acknowledge. Who is Jesus of Nazareth? And walk down the street, ask 10 people, right? Now 5 of them probably never heard of him. 4 of them will probably say something like, he was a great teacher. Right? That's how the world looks at Jesus. A great teacher. There have been lots of great teachers. Nothing special about that. Is that all it is? No. Who or what is he? The Messiah. You've taken this up a dramatic level, haven't you? Jesus has revealed, whatever happened in those hours together, Jesus has revealed himself to them to the point where they now realize that he's not just a teacher, he's not just another rabbi, he is the Messiah. One. He is the Messiah. We forgive Andrew for his lie. But don't we do the same thing in our own spiritual lives? Don't we sometimes have that moment where we say to ourselves, wasn't it clever of me to become a Christian? Isn't it clever of me to go to church? Oh, those dumb, ignorant pagans. Right? Wasn't it smart of me to find my way here? Nobody's here today because you chose to be here. Now, in a fashion you did, but you're here because God called you. God gave you a tremendous gift. What is that gift? That's the next part of the story. They brought Simon, the dumb fisherman, uneducated, right? Living in a place far away from Jerusalem, probably knew nothing or little about the scriptures. Right? Andrew brings Simon to Jesus. And Jesus looks at him and he tells him who he is. They have not effected the introductions, right? But Jesus knows, you are Simon, the son of John. Indeed he is. You will be called Cephas, which is translated Peter, rock. It's not really a name. It's more of a nickname. And indeed, it's not even that. Right? Now, what does Jesus say? Listen to what he says. You will be called rock. You will be called rock. Not you are called rock. You were called rock. You will be called rock. You will be. And indeed, we know if you read this, if you keep reading, and you get to the end of the book, you realize that that's what happens. Simon, the dumb, ignorant, uneducated, illiterate probably, fisherman, is given a gift. What is that gift? The same gift that in this room. Faith. Faith, Jesus is the Messiah. He has something to say to us in his teachings. There's a progression there. A great teacher who's the Messiah, who will save us and gives us the gift that leads us on the way to salvation. But it's a journey. You will be called Peter, but you're going to have to go through an awful lot to get there, just like you and me. Do we all have faith? I hope so. If you're in this room right now and you do not have faith, well, why are you here? Now, you might have faith, you just don't know it. Okay. But you're being offered an opportunity to reconnect to that gift. But what does that demand? Walking with Jesus. Follow me. Come follow me. Come and you will see. These words of Jesus in the first chapter will lead these people, to the cross. Now, this is very important. Who's there? Mary the Theotokos, the mother of God, indeed. Who else is there? John, the beloved disciple. Who else is there? A bunch of other faithful women. Who else is there? Nobody. Where's old Rocky in all this? Hiding. You will be rock, but you ain't yet. Right? Just like you and me. We're getting there. We make great strides. God has blessed us on our journey so far. But we got a long way to go, brothers and sisters, don't we? We got a long way to go. And indeed, in all of the scriptures, even after what happens to good old Rocky, right? Pentecost comes, and he really is blessed with this gift. He knows what all this means, but he still gets it wrong. At least twice. Peter is not rock because of Peter. Peter is rock because he has been gifted faith. Peter the man is fallible. He makes mistakes. Even after Pentecost, he's wrong. What is the rock in Peter's life? Faith, not himself. He's a fallen human being, just like you and me. But he's a saint. Even despite his errors and mistakes and sinfulness and running away from the crucifixion and denying Jesus 3 times before the cock crows, he was incredibly fallible. He's fallen, just like you and me. We are fallen people in a fallen world. For that reason, God has called us and given us a tremendous gift. It's more than anything. A promise. We have been taught there's something greater than this. We have come to see that Christ is the Messiah who can lead us to salvation. How? Behold the Lamb of God. And that the way to accepting that gift is to accept the gift of faith. It's a gift. It's not because of anything that we do. Now, we need to appropriate it. We need to make it real in how we live. We need to try. But like Peter, we're going to mess up all the time, right? And the more aware you become of what this faith means, the more you realize how much you, and us mess up. But God is faithful. God is the lover of mankind and calls us forward. Despite how messed up we are. Freely given. Totally unworthy on our part. Thanks be to God, we've been offered that gift. Right? But it's a journey. Coming here today was one step on the journey. This is not the end. This is the beginning of the rest of the journey. Right? And hopefully, in every step, we are changed. Drawn closer, not to the world, but to the truth. To the truth. To the truth of the Messiah who teaches us the truth. So we ask the Lord to help us on our journey, to help us to walk in faith, to come and see.